The paper mill smelled the same every day, a thick combination of wet wood pulp, machine oil, and something chemical that clung to the back of Ethan Mallory's throat no matter how long he worked there. 14 years, and he still noticed it. The smell had worked its way into his work shirts, his truck seats, probably his skin. He didn't mind anymore. At 41, he'd learned that steady work and a reliable paycheck mattered more than comfort. The November afternoon shift was winding down when Ethan finished his rounds through the facility. His steel-toed boots echoed against concrete as he checked the conveyor systems one last time, clipboard in hand, marking off each inspection point with the kind of methodical attention that had earned him the supervisor position 3 years back. The massive rollers hummed their constant rhythm, pressing and flattening, never stopping. Reliable. Predictable. Unlike most things in his life. He clocked out at 4:30, nodded to the evening crew coming in, and walked across the gravel parking lot to his truck. The sky was already dimming, that early winter darkness that arrived in northern Minnesota like an unwelcome guest who showed up earlier each day. His breath fogged in the cold air. The truck's engine turned over with a reluctant groan, and he let it idle while he scraped frost from the windshield. The 20-minute drive home took him through town, past the hardware store, the diner where he sometimes grabbed coffee, the gas station on the corner where everyone knew his name. Rural Minnesota towns were like that. You couldn't disappear, couldn't reinvent yourself. Everyone remembered who you were, what you'd done, who you'd married, and why it fell apart. Ethan pulled into the driveway of the small 2-story house he'd bought after the divorce. It wasn't much. Vinyl siding that needed painting, a yard full of pine needles, a detached garage that leaned slightly to the left, but it was his. More importantly, it had an extra bedroom for Noah. His son's bike was lying in the front yard again. Ethan made a mental note to remind him about putting things away, then decided against it. Pick your battles. That's what the court-ordered therapist had said during the custody evaluation. Don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Focus on connection, not correction. Inside, the house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Ethan kicked off his boots by the door, hung his jacket on the hook, and called out, "Noah, you home?" Silence. Then footsteps upstairs, slow and hesitant. The floorboards creaked. He kept meaning to fix those, and Noah appeared at the top of the stairs. 14 years old, lanky and awkward in that way teenage boys were, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big and jeans with ripped knees. But it was his face that made Ethan stop moving. Pale, drawn, eyes that wouldn't quite meet his. "Hey," Ethan said, keeping his voice casual. "How was school?" Noah descended the stairs slowly, one hand gripping the railing. He had something tucked under his other arm, something rectangular and flat wrapped in what looked like brown paper. "Dad," Noah's voice came out rough, like he'd been holding his breath. "Someone left this in my locker." He held it out. Ethan crossed the living room and took it. The weight surprised him, heavier than he expected. He turned it over in his hands. The brown paper sleeve was unmarked except for 2 words written in black marker across the front in blocky, deliberate letters. "Play me. What is this?" Ethan asked, though something cold was already settling in his stomach. "I don't know." Noah wrapped his arms around himself. "I opened my locker after lunch, and it was just there, sitting on top of my books." Ethan pulled back the paper sleeve. Inside was a VHS tape in a clear plastic case, the kind they used to rent from video stores before everything went digital. He hadn't seen one in years. The label on the spine was blank. "Did you see who put it there?" "No." Noah shook his head. "Nobody saw anything. I asked around." Ethan turned the tape over, examining it from every angle as if the plastic casing might offer answers. His mind was already racing through possibilities, some kind of prank, a mistake, maybe something meant for another kid's locker. But the cold feeling in his gut told him otherwise. "Dad," Noah's voice was quieter now, almost afraid. The note on the paper, it said something else. On the inside, Ethan flipped the sleeve over. On the interior, in the same black marker, were 5 more words. "I think it's about you." The basement was cold, and the single bulb hanging from the ceiling cast harsh shadows across the concrete walls. Ethan hadn't been down here in months. There was nothing but storage, old furniture from the marriage, boxes he'd never unpacked. And somewhere, buried under a tarp in the corner, the VHS player they bought when Noah was little. Noah stood at the bottom of the stairs, arms still wrapped tight around his body, while Ethan dug through the pile. Dust coated everything. The tarp came away stiff and musty, revealing the old entertainment center they'd kept in the living room of their previous house. The VHS player sat on the middle shelf, relic from another lifetime. "You sure you want to watch it?" Noah asked. Ethan pulled the unit free, unplugged the old cable box beneath it, and straightened. "Gotta know what's on it." They carried it upstairs together, neither speaking. Ethan's hands were steady as he hooked the player up to the small TV in the living room, but his mind wouldn't settle. The tape sat on the coffee table between them, innocent and waiting. Once everything was connected, Ethan picked up the remote and looked at Noah. "You don't have to watch this with me." "Yeah, I do." Noah sat down on the couch, spine rigid. Ethan pushed the tape into the slot. It clicked, whirred, and the TV screen flickered from blue static to grainy footage. For a moment, nothing but noise. Then the picture stabilized. Ethan's breath caught. The footage was old home video. He recognized it immediately. Their old house, the one they'd lived in before the divorce. Summer, judging by the green grass and bright sun. The camera panned across the backyard, shaky and amateur, capturing Noah at maybe 8 years old running through a sprinkler. His laugh was tinny through the TV speakers, but unmistakable. Pure joy, the kind kids had before the world complicated things. Then Rachel's voice, warm and happy. Get him with the water." The camera swung, and there was Ethan, younger and lighter, chasing Noah with a garden hose. Both of them laughing. Rachel's laughter joining in from behind the camera. Ethan's jaw tightened. He hadn't seen this footage in years. Hadn't thought about those days in even longer. The video jumped. Different scene now, a birthday party. Noah blowing out candles on a Superman cake. Rachel singing, off-key and joyful. Another jump. Christmas morning. Wrapping paper everywhere. Noah holding up a new bike, grinning so wide his whole face seemed to glow. Normal. Happy. The kind of memories people made home videos to preserve. Then the screen went black. For 3 seconds, nothing. When the picture returned, everything had changed. Rachel sat on a couch Ethan didn't recognize. Beige, generic, could have been anywhere. But it was her face that stopped his heart. The left side was swollen, skin dark purple and mottled. Her lip was split, one eye nearly swollen shut. She wore a gray t-shirt, hair unwashed and stringy around her shoulders. She looked directly into the camera. Tears streamed down her bruised face. "My name is Rachel Mallory." Her voice shook. "I'm making this video because I don't know what else to do." Beside him, Ethan heard Noah's sharp intake of breath. Rachel wiped at her face with trembling hands. "If anything happens to me, if I end up in the hospital, or worse, I need people to know the truth." She took a shuddering breath. "My ex-husband, Ethan Mallory, did this to me. He's been doing it for months." "No," Ethan whispered. The word came out involuntary. "I can't live like this anymore." Rachel's voice broke on a sob. "I've tried to protect our son. I've tried to keep quiet. But I'm scared. I'm so scared. And if something happens to me..." She looked directly at the camera, eyes pleading. "Tell the police. Tell them Ethan did it. Tell them I tried to get away, but he wouldn't let me. Tell them." The screen cut to black. Ethan's hands were shaking. He dropped the remote, heard it clatter against the coffee table, but couldn't move to pick it up. His mind raced, trying to process what he'd just seen, trying to make sense of the impossible. "Dad!" Noah's voice sounded very far away. Ethan stood abruptly, crossed to the TV, and ejected the tape. He held it in his hands, staring at the innocent black plastic, then rewound it and played the ending again. Rachel's bruised face, her tears, her accusation. He watched it 3 more times, studying every detail. The couch she sat on, he'd never seen it before. The wall behind her, blank and white, no pictures or decorations. The light coming from the left side, artificial and harsh. And the timestamp in the corner, small white numbers. 1-1 to 1842. 6 days ago. "Dad," Noah said again, louder now. "Is that real?" Ethan turned to look at his son. Noah's face had gone even paler, eyes wide and scared. "No." Ethan's voice came out steady now, certain. It's not real. But her face. Makeup. Ethan set the tape down carefully. Stage makeup. I've seen what real bruises look like. Those aren't right. The colors are off. And look, he pointed at the frozen frame on the TV. See how the swelling is perfectly symmetrical? That doesn't happen with actual injuries. In the split lip, there's no blood. Nothing dried around the edges. Noah stood up, moved closer to the TV. You really think it's fake? I know it is. Ethan's jaw tightened. Because I haven't seen your mother in 3 months. Haven't been within 50 feet of her. Last time we were in the same room was at your school conference in August. Then why would she? I don't know yet. But even as he said it, pieces were clicking into place in Ethan's mind. Stay here. He went upstairs to his bedroom, pulled out his phone, and scrolled through his messages. Most were work-related, a few from Noah, some automated alerts from his bank. He kept scrolling, going back weeks, until he found what he was looking for. A text from Rachel, sent 2.5 weeks ago, late at night. I need $3,000. Tyler's business is having cash flow problems, and we're behind on rent. Ethan had replied the next morning. I give you child support every month. That's all I'm required to provide. Her response had come within minutes. So that's it? You're just going to let us struggle? We have Noah on weekends. He sees us barely scraping by while you live comfortable. I'm not comfortable. I work 50 hours a week to make ends meet. You want more money? Get a job. The final message from her, sent 3 hours later. If you won't help me with money, I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are. Ethan stared at the screen. His thumb hovered over the delete button, then stopped. Evidence. He took a screenshot instead, then scrolled through looking for more. There were others. Months of them. Rachel asking for money for various things. Car repairs, medical bills, Noah's school expenses. Ethan had helped when he could, sent extra beyond the court-ordered support. But there was always something else, always another need, another crisis. He went back downstairs. Noah was sitting on the couch again, remote in hand, rewinding and replaying the tape. Stop, Ethan said quietly. Stop watching it. Noah froze the frame, set down the remote. What do we do? We call the sheriff's office. Ethan picked up his phone. This is evidence of something. I don't know what yet, but they need to know about it. But what if they... Noah's voice cracked. What if they think it's real? What if they arrest you? They won't. Ethan hoped he sounded more confident than he felt. Truth matters. Evidence matters. We'll tell them what happened and let them investigate. He dialed 911, asked for the sheriff's office, and was transferred to the non-emergency line. A woman answered bored voice asking how she could help. My name is Ethan Mallory. I need to report something strange. Someone left a VHS tape in my son's school locker. It contains what appears to be a false accusation against me. Sir, can you be more specific about the nature of the accusation? Ethan glanced at Noah, then turned away slightly and lowered his voice. My ex-wife appears on the tape, claiming I've been physically abusing her. But the injuries look staged, and the timeline doesn't match reality. I haven't seen her in months. A pause on the other end. You're saying your ex-wife made a video accusing you of abuse, and you believe it's fake? I know it's fake. Sir, I'm going to send a deputy out to speak with you. What's your address? Ethan gave it, hung up, and sat down heavily on the couch. 20 minutes. They said a deputy would be there in 20 minutes. Noah hadn't moved, still staring at the frozen image of Rachel's face on the TV screen. She wouldn't really do this, he said quietly. Would she? I mean, she's my mom. Ethan wanted to say no. Wanted to tell his son that people didn't do things like this, that mothers protected their children instead of using them as weapons. But he'd learned during the divorce that Rachel was capable of almost anything when she didn't get her way. I don't know, Bud, he said instead, but we're going to find out. The deputy who arrived was named Clark. Ethan had seen him around town, buying coffee at the same gas station, sitting in his cruiser on speed trap duty along Highway 2. Mid-40s, thick through the middle, with a mustache that looked like it belonged in a different decade. He stood in the doorway of Ethan's living room, notepad in hand, expression neutral but eyes already skeptical. Mr. Mallory, he said, not quite making it sound like a greeting. Deputy. Ethan gestured to the couch. Have a seat. Can I get you anything? Coffee. No, thank you. Clark sat, but remained on the edge of the cushion, spine straight. Professional distance. You said something about a tape? Ethan explained everything, finding it in Noah's locker, the note, the contents of the video. As he talked, he watched Clark's expression shift subtly. Not quite suspicion, but something close. The deputy's eyes moved from Ethan to Noah, then to the VHS player still hooked up to the TV. Can I see it? Clark asked. Ethan played it for him. The happy home videos, then the brutal shift to Rachel's confession. Clark watched without comment, but Ethan could see his jaw working, grinding something over in his mind. When it finished, Clark reached for the tape. I'll need to take this as evidence. Of course. Ethan handed it over. But you can see the bruises are fake, right? The makeup job is obvious. Sir, I'm not a forensic expert. Clark slipped the tape into an evidence bag he'd brought from his cruiser. I can't make that determination just by looking. Then talk to her. Ask her to show you the injuries in person. They won't be there because this was recorded days ago and she's fine. We'll follow up appropriately. Clark's tone had gone carefully neutral. The voice of someone who decided Ethan was a potential threat but wasn't ready to say so directly. Mr. Mallory, I need to ask you some questions. When was the last time you saw your ex-wife? August. School conference for Noah. And before that? June, maybe? She picked Noah up for her summer visitation. We met at a gas station halfway between our houses. Said maybe 10 words to each other. Have you had any arguments recently? Any conflicts? No arguments. She sent texts asking for money, and I've said no. That's the extent of our recent contact. Clark wrote something in his notepad. And can you account for your whereabouts on November 2nd? That's the date stamped on the video. The question hit Ethan like cold water. You're asking for my alibi? Just routine questions, sir. I was at work. I work 6 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. You can check with my supervisor at the mill. I'll do that. Clark stood, pocketed his notepad. Mr. Mallory, we just need to ask, why would someone make this kind of video if there wasn't any truth to it? There was. The accusation, dressed up as a question. Ethan stood too, fighting to keep his voice level. Because Rachel lies when she doesn't get her way. She did it during the divorce. She told the court I had a temper, claimed I'd broken her wrist. The hospital records prove she'd slipped on ice outside a grocery store. But the rumors stuck. I lost half my friends. My job almost fired me. She's good at making herself look like a victim. I see. Clark moved toward the door. Well, we'll investigate this thoroughly. In the meantime, I'd recommend you don't contact your ex-wife directly. Let's handle it. I'm not planning to contact her. Good. Clark paused at the threshold, turned back. And Mr. Mallory? If there's anything you're not telling me, now would be the time. There's nothing. Ethan held his gaze. I haven't touched Rachel in years. Whatever game she's playing, it's going to fall apart the second you actually investigate. After Clark left, Ethan closed the door and leaned against it, eyes shut. His heart was hammering against his ribs, hands still trembling with adrenaline. He heard Noah moving in the living room, the soft sounds of the TV being turned off. Dad! Noah's voice was small. Are they going to arrest you? Ethan opened his eyes, straightened. No, because I didn't do anything. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. He'd been through this before. The accusations, the investigations, the way people looked at him differently once Rachel started spreading her version of events. Truth didn't always matter as much as people claimed it did. Sometimes the accusation alone was enough to ruin everything. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Ethan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle and creak around him. His mind kept replaying the tape. Rachel's bruised face, her tears, the practiced delivery of her accusation. He'd been married to her for 9 years. He knew her tells, her patterns. The way she tilted her head slightly when she lied. The way her voice got softer, more vulnerable when she wanted something. She'd used that voice during the divorce proceedings, telling the judge how scared she was, how Ethan's temper made her feel unsafe in her own home. None of it had been true, but hadn't mattered. The judge had awarded her primary custody anyway, given Ethan every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. Said it was in Noah's best interest to maintain stability. Ethan had spent 2 years fighting back up to 50-50 custody proving his reliability, his consistency, his fitness as a parent. And now Rachel was trying again. Only this time, she wasn't just lying to a judge. She was creating evidence. Video evidence that could be played in court, shared with the police, shown to anyone who doubted her story. Ethan rolled over, grabbed his phone from the nightstand, and pulled up the text conversation with Rachel again. He scrolled through months of messages, looking for patterns, for anything that might help improve what she was doing. There, 3 months ago, Tyler lost his biggest client. We're really struggling. Can you help with utilities this month? Ethan had sent $200. The next week, Rachel had texted a thank you that seemed genuine. 2 months ago, my car needs new tires. Can't afford them right now. Can you cover it? Ethan had said no that time. Too many requests, too little payback. Rachel's response had been cold. Fine, I'll figure it out myself. Like always. And then, 6 weeks ago, Noah needs new clothes for school. Growing so fast. I can barely keep up. Ethan had sent money for that too, direct deposited into her account. $150. But the pattern was clear. Every time he said no, Rachel got angry. Every time he helped, she came back asking for more. And now, with Tyler's business failing, she'd gotten desperate. Desperate enough to stage an abuse video. Desperate enough to plant it in their son's locker. Desperate enough to try to destroy him for money. Ethan set the phone down, anger burning hot in his chest. She'd crossed a line this time. Not just lying, but manufacturing evidence. Not just trying to hurt him, but dragging Noah into it. Making their son deliver the weapon she'd created. He thought about Deputy Clark's question, why would someone make this kind of video if there wasn't any truth to it? The answer was simple. Money. Control. Revenge. Rachel had always been good at revenge. During the divorce, when Ethan had refused to give her the house outright, she'd told everyone at Noah's school that he was abusive. Sent concerned emails to teachers, the principal, the school counselor. Ethan had shown up for a parent-teacher conference to find the staff treating him like a ticking bomb, watching his every move, ready to call security if he showed the slightest hint of aggression. It had taken months to undo that damage. Months of being the perfect parent. Calm, collected, never raising his voice, always smiling, always cooperative. Eventually, the school staff had realized Rachel's accusations didn't match reality. But the whispers had lingered. Some people still looked at him differently. Still stepped back slightly when he approached. Still watched him with that wary assessment that said they weren't quite sure if the accusations were false or if he was just good at hiding his true nature. And now she was starting again. Ethan got out of bed, went downstairs, and pulled out the folder he kept in his desk drawer. Divorce papers, custody agreement, financial records. He learned to keep everything documented, everything organized, because Rachel had a habit of rewriting history to suit her needs. He flipped through the custody evaluation from 2 years ago. The psychologist's report had been favorable to both parents, but there was a section that stuck out now. Ms. Mallory displays a pattern of externalizing blame for financial difficulties. She has expressed frustration that Mr. Mallory is not providing additional support beyond court-ordered child support, though she acknowledged he has sent money voluntarily on several occasions. Ms. Mallory stated that she feels Mr. Mallory abandoned her when he filed for divorce, leaving her with nothing. However, property division was equitable according to marital assets, and Ms. Mallory's current financial difficulties appear to stem primarily from her partner's business losses rather than any actions taken by Mr. Mallory. There it was. 2 years ago, a trained psychologist had identified the pattern. Rachel blamed Ethan for everything wrong in her life. And when blame wasn't enough, she created evidence to support her narrative. Ethan pulled out his phone and took pictures of every relevant page in the custody file. The psychologist's report. The hospital records from when Rachel claimed Ethan had broken her wrist. The text messages where she'd admitted to exaggerating during court proceedings. All of it, because he had a feeling he was going to need it. The next morning, Ethan dropped Noah at school early. His son had barely slept, dark circles under his eyes, moving through breakfast like a ghost. Ethan wanted to say something reassuring, wanted to promise that everything would be fine, but the words felt hollow. So instead, He made Noah's favorite breakfast, pancakes with chocolate chips, and they'd eaten in silence while morning light filtered through the kitchen windows. "You okay?" Ethan asked as Noah gathered his backpack. "Yeah." Noah didn't look at him. "Just tired. If anyone asks about yesterday, about the tape." "I know. Don't talk about it." Noah shouldered his bag. "Deputy Clark said he might need to interview me. At school." Ethan's jaw tightened. "He say when?" "Today, maybe. He's going to pull me out of class." "You want me there?" "I think I have to do it alone." Something about not influencing my answers. Noah finally looked up, and his eyes were older than they should be. "Dad, what if they don't believe you?" "Then we deal with it." Ethan reached out, squeezed Noah's shoulder. "But the truth will come out. It always does." He hoped that was true. After dropping Noah off, Ethan didn't go to work. He called in sick, first time in 2 years, and drove 40 minutes south to Rachel's house. He knew the address, had dropped Noah off there enough times. A small ranch-style place on the outskirts of a town even smaller than theirs, surrounded by scraggly pine trees and a yard that needed mowing. Tyler's truck was in the driveway, a white Ford F-150 with his business logo on the side. Tyler Benson Construction and Remodeling. Ethan had met him twice, both times brief exchanges during Noah's pickups. Tyler seemed decent enough on the surface, friendly, smiled a lot, always asked about work. But Ethan had learned not to trust surface appearances. He parked on the street, engine running, and sat there for 5 minutes trying to decide if this was smart. Deputy Clark had said not to contact Rachel directly, but Clark wasn't going to get answers. The police would go through official channels, take statements, file reports. All of that took time, and Ethan needed to know what Rachel was planning, needed to see her face when he confronted her. He turned off the truck and walked up the driveway. Tyler answered the door, wearing pajama pants and a t-shirt, coffee mug in hand. His expression went from confused to guarded in the span of a heartbeat. "Ethan, hi. Wasn't expecting you. I need to talk to Rachel." "About what?" Tyler's posture shifted, squaring up slightly. Not aggressive, but ready to be. "About a video she made. Someone left it in Noah's locker yesterday." Tyler's confusion looked genuine. "Video? What video? Ask her." Ethan stepped forward. Tyler didn't move back, but his free hand came up palm out. "Whoa, easy. Rachel's sleeping. She had a rough night." "I bet she did." Ethan kept his voice level, but steel crept in around the edges. "Wake her up. Tell her I'm not leaving until we talk. Or you could come back later when—" "Tyler." Ethan met his eyes. "You seem like a decent guy. I don't know what Rachel's told you about me, but I'm guessing it's not flattering. I'm here because someone made a video accusing me of something I didn't do, planted it where my 14-year-old son would find it, and now the sheriff's office is treating me like a suspect. So no, I'm not coming back later. I'm talking to her now." Tyler studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Wait here." He closed the door. Ethan heard voices inside, muffled through the walls. Rachel's voice rising, sharp and angry. Tyler's lower, placating. A door slammed somewhere in the house. 2 minutes later, Tyler returned. "She says she doesn't know what you're talking about." "Bull. That's what she said, man. I can't make her." Ethan raised his voice, pitched to carry through the door. "Rachel, I know you made that video. You left it in Noah's locker. That's sick. Using our son as a weapon. I don't know what you're talking about." Rachel's voice came from inside, closer now. "Get off my property. Not until you tell me why. What's the endgame here? You think I'm going to hand you money because you threatened me?" "I haven't threatened anyone." Her voice was right on the other side of the door now. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, caught between them. "Maybe your son made it up. Maybe he's trying to get attention." The accusation landed like a punch. Ethan felt his hands ball into fists, forced himself to breathe. "Noah wouldn't do that." "How would you know? You barely know him anymore. He lives with you, what, half the time? You don't know what goes on in his head when he's at our house." "Because I actually listened to him." Ethan's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. "Unlike you. You're so busy playing victim, you can't see you're turning our son into collateral damage." Silence from the other side of the door. Then Rachel's voice, quieter but no less sharp. "Leave. Now, or I'm calling the police." "Call them. Tell them about the video while you're at it." Tell them how you staged those bruises. Tell them about the texts you sent asking for money. I don't know anything about a video, but there was something in her tone now, a crack in the facade. Fear, maybe, or guilt. Tyler stepped back, pulling his phone from his pocket. Ethan, you need to go. I'm serious. Ethan looked at him, then at the closed door, then back. For a moment, he considered pushing harder, forcing his way past Tyler, making Rachel face him. But that's what she wanted. That's exactly what she wanted. Him losing control, getting aggressive, giving her real ammunition instead of fake bruises. So he stepped back, hands up in surrender. Fine, I'm leaving. He met Tyler's eyes. But you should know something. Rachel asked me for $3,000 2 weeks ago. Said your business was having trouble. I said no. 3 days later, that video got made. You think that's a coincidence? Tyler's expression flickered. Not quite belief, but not dismissal either. Doubt creeping in. Ethan walked back to his truck without looking back. His hands were shaking again. Adrenaline, anger, frustration all burning through him at once. He sat in the driver's seat, gripped the steering wheel hard enough to make his knuckles white, and counted to 10. Rachel had denied everything. Of course she had. Denying, deflecting, blaming someone else. Those were her specialties. Even now, she'd suggested Noah had made the video himself, turned their son into the villain of her narrative. That was the part that burned hottest. Not the false accusation against him. He'd weathered those before. But dragging Noah into it, forcing him to be the delivery mechanism for her revenge, then suggesting he'd fabricated the whole thing for attention. What kind of mother did that? Ethan pulled out his phone and checked his messages. Nothing from Deputy Clark. Nothing from work. Just a text from Noah sent 20 minutes ago. Deputy's here, pulling me from algebra. Ethan typed back, tell the truth. That's all you need to do. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, what if they don't believe me either? Ethan stared at the message, at his son's fear translated into pixels on a screen. He wanted to drive to the school, wanted to be there when they questioned Noah, wanted to stand between his son and whatever Rachel was trying to do. But he couldn't. Interfering would only make things worse, make him look like he had something to hide. They will. The truth is on our side. He sent the message, then sat in Rachel's neighborhood for another 10 minutes, waiting for something he couldn't name. Waiting for her to come outside. Maybe waiting for Tyler to open the door and say he believed him. Waiting for Deputy Clark to call and say they'd investigated and found Rachel's video was obviously fake. None of that happened. Eventually, Ethan started the truck and drove home. He had work to do, a different kind of work than his usual rounds at the paper mill. Evidence to gather, timelines to document, a case to build, because he understood now that the sheriff's office wasn't going to do that work for him. They were investigating him, not Rachel. He was the suspect, not the victim. And if he wanted to clear his name, he was going to have to do it himself. Back at his house, Ethan spread everything across the dining room table. Bank statements, text messages, the custody evaluation, his work schedules showing where he'd been on November 2nd when Rachel claimed to be filming her accusation video. He'd gotten the schedule from his supervisor, a simple printout showing he'd worked 10 hours that day, clocking in at 8 in the morning and clocking out at 6:15 in the evening. He photographed everything, organized it into folders on his phone, backed it up to a cloud account. Then he started making a timeline. The divorce had been finalized 3 years ago in September. In the year following, Rachel had texted him 17 times asking for money beyond child support. Ethan had helped 12 of those times, sending anywhere from $50 to $300. Each transaction was documented. He'd learned to keep records after the wrist-breaking accusation. In the second year post-divorce, Rachel had asked 23 times. Ethan had helped 8 times. The requests were getting more frequent, more desperate, and each time he said no, Rachel would go silent for weeks, then resurface with a new crisis. In the past 6 months, she'd asked 14 times. Ethan had helped twice. The last time he'd sent money had been September, $150 for Noah's school clothes. And 2 weeks ago, she'd asked for $3,000. Not hundreds, thousands. That was different. That was desperation. Ethan pulled up Rachel's Facebook profile on his phone. She'd blocked him after the divorce, but he'd learned to check it through Noah's account when necessary. He logged in using the password Noah had given him, parental monitoring completely above board, and navigated her page. Most of her posts were public. Photos of her and Tyler, carefully curated to show happiness. Pictures of Noah during her custody weekends. Inspirational quotes about resilience and overcoming adversity. But scrolling back through the past few months, Ethan could see the cracks. Posts about financial stress testing relationships. Links to articles about how to survive when your partner's business is failing. One post from 3 weeks ago that simply said, "When you ask for help and get nothing but excuses, remember who stood by you and who walked away." Ethan screenshot it, added it to his evidence folder. He kept scrolling, further back, to the months after the divorce. Rachel had been vocal then, lots of posts about single motherhood, about starting over, about leaving toxic relationships. Nothing explicitly naming him, but the implications were clear. Then he found something else. A post from 15 months ago, around the time Tyler's business had started. So grateful for second chances and new beginnings. Some people will try to hold you back when you're moving forward, but you don't owe them anything. Protect your peace. Flex biceps. The comments were full of support. Friends saying things like, "You deserve happiness," and "Don't let him drag you down." One comment from Rachel's sister, "Some people never change. Proud of you for getting out." Ethan zoomed in on the comments, looking for anything that might indicate Rachel had been planning this for longer than he'd thought. But there was nothing explicit, just the general pattern of her casting herself as the victim, him as the villain. He set the phone down and rubbed his eyes. The timeline was clear now. Rachel and Tyler's financial problems had been growing for months. She'd been asking Ethan for help more frequently, getting more desperate. When he'd finally refused a large sum, she'd escalated to creating false evidence. The question was, what did she plan to do with that video? Was it just meant to scare him? To pressure him into giving her money to make it go away? Or was there a bigger plan? Maybe a lawsuit claiming she needed a restraining order, trying to modify the custody agreement in her favor? Either way, she'd made a mistake. She'd involved Noah, and that, more than anything else, was going to be her undoing. Ethan's phone rang. Deputy Clark's number. "Mr. Mallory, we've completed our interview with your son." And Ethan kept his voice steady. "His story matches yours. He found the tape in his locker, didn't see who put it there, brought it home." A pause. "He also mentioned that his mother has been asking you for money recently." "That's correct. I have text messages documenting it. I'd like to see those. Can you come down to the station?" "When?" "Now, if possible." Ethan looked at the evidence spread across his table. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. The sheriff's office was in a squat brick building on Main Street, sandwiched between the post office and a law firm. Ethan had been inside exactly once before, during the initial custody evaluation 3 years ago, when they needed to run a background check. The interior was what you'd expect: beige walls, worn linoleum floors, the smell of coffee that had been sitting too long in the pot. Deputy Clark met him in the lobby, led him to a small conference room with a table and 3 chairs. A recording device sat in the center of the table, red light already blinking. "For documentation," Clark said, gesturing to it. "I'm going to record our conversation." "Fine." Ethan sat, pulled out his phone. "I've got text messages from Rachel going back 3 years. 17 requests for money in the first year post-divorce, 23 in the second year, 14 in the past 6 months. Each time I said no, she got angry. 2 weeks ago, she asked for $3,000. I refused. 3 days later, that video appears." He handed the phone to Clark, who scrolled through the messages slowly, occasionally pausing to zoom in on a particular exchange. His expression gave away nothing. "These show a pattern of requests," Clark said finally. "But they don't prove she made the video." "No, but they prove motive. She needed money. I wouldn't give it to her. So she escalated." Ethan leaned forward. "Have you interviewed her yet? Asked her about the video?" "We have an appointment with Ms. Mallory this afternoon. She'll deny everything. She'll say she doesn't know anything about it. Maybe she'll even suggest Noah made it himself. That's what she told me this morning when I went to her house." Clark's eyes sharpened. "You went to her residence?" "I specifically told you not to contact her. I didn't contact her. I talked to Tyler, her boyfriend. She wouldn't even open the door, but she shouted through it, accused Noah of making the video for attention. Her own son, Mr. Mallory. Clark's tone had gone harder. You need to understand how this looks. Your ex-wife makes a video claiming you've been abusive. You immediately go to her house and confront her. That's not the behavior of an innocent man. It's the behavior of a father protecting his son. Ethan held Clark's gaze. Rachel has done this before. During the divorce, she claimed I broke her wrist. The hospital records proved she'd fallen on ice. She told everyone at Noah's school I was dangerous. It took me months to repair my reputation. She lies, deputy. She's good at it. And she's doing it again. Clark sat back, arms crossed. Walk me through November 2nd. Where were you between 6 and 7 p.m.? Work. I have my time card showing I clocked out at 6:15. Then I drove home, 20-minute drive. I have receipts from the gas station where I stopped for dinner around 6:30. Noah can confirm I was home by 7. And you're saying the timestamp on the video is fabricated? I'm saying the entire video is fabricated. Those bruises are makeup. The location is staged. The whole thing is designed to look like evidence, but it's theater. Clark wrote something in his notepad. We'll have our forensics team examine the tape. Good. They'll find exactly what I'm telling you. Ethan pulled out his phone again, opened his photo gallery. I also have my work schedule for the past 6 months, documentation of every time I've seen Rachel, receipts proving my whereabouts on multiple occasions. I've got the custody evaluation from 2 years ago where the psychologist noted Rachel's pattern of externalizing blame. I've got screenshots of her social media posts where she's been complaining about financial problems. Everything you need is right here. He handed the phone to Clark again. The deputy scrolled through, his expression gradually shifting from skepticism to something else. Not quite belief, but maybe the beginning of doubt about Rachel's credibility. That's thorough, Clark said finally. I learned to document everything during the divorce. Rachel's version of events and reality rarely align. If I don't have proof of what actually happened, her story becomes the truth. Clark handed the phone back, leaned forward with his elbows on the table. Mr. Mallory, I'm going to be frank with you. When I first watched that video, I was concerned. It looked convincing. But your son's statement, combined with this documentation, is painting a different picture. I'm still going to interview Ms. Mallory, and we're still going to examine the tape thoroughly. But I want you to know, we're investigating this as a possible false report, not just as a domestic violence case. Relief flooded through Ethan, so sudden and powerful he almost couldn't breathe. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to take time. And if we determine the video is fake, Ms. Mallory could face serious charges. False reporting, possible extortion, child endangerment for involving your son. Are you prepared for what that might mean for Noah? Ethan thought about his son, pale and scared, carrying that tape into the house, eyes full of fear when he asked if they were going to arrest his dad. Thought about Rachel suggesting Noah had made it himself. Thought about all the times she'd put Noah in the middle of their conflicts, used him as a messenger, forced him to choose sides. Noah's already in the middle of this, Ethan said quietly. Rachel put him there when she left that tape in his locker. Whatever consequences come from this, they're on her, not me. 3 days passed. 3 days of checking his phone constantly, jumping every time it rang, waiting for Deputy Clark to call with an update. 3 days of going through the motions at work, checking machinery, signing off on inspections, pretending everything was normal while his life hung in uncertain balance. Noah had gone quiet. Not angry, not scared, just withdrawn. He did his homework without being asked, ate dinner without conversation, went to bed early. Ethan tried to draw him out, asked about school, about his friends, about anything that might get Noah talking. But his son had learned too early that talking about feelings sometimes made things worse. On the 4th day, Deputy Clark called. Mr. Mallory, we've completed our preliminary investigation. Can you come to the station? What did you find? I'd rather discuss it in person. Ethan's heart hammered. Just tell me, am I being charged with anything? A pause. Then, no. But we need to talk about next steps. Ethan arrived at the sheriff's office 30 minutes later. Clark was waiting in the same conference room, but this time he wasn't alone. Another deputy sat next to him, Younger, female, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. Clark introduced her as Deputy Torres, their domestic violence specialist. Mr. Mallory, Torres began, we've analyzed the video extensively. The bruising appears to be cosmetically applied, stage makeup, like you suggested. The swelling is inconsistent with genuine injuries. And we've confirmed through hospital records that Rachel Mallory has not sought medical treatment for any injuries in the past 6 months. Ethan exhaled slowly. So you believe me? We believe the video is staged, Clark corrected, but we still need to understand why. We interviewed Ms. Mallory yesterday. She denied any knowledge of the video. Claimed she didn't make it, didn't send it, doesn't know who did. Of course she did. However, Torres continued, during the interview, she became defensive when we asked about her financial situation. When we pressed, she admitted that she and her partner are in significant debt. She also admitted to texting you multiple times requesting money, though she characterized it as asking for help co-parenting rather than extortion. Did you ask her to show you the injuries? To prove they're real? Clark nodded. She claimed they'd already healed. When we pointed out that bruising of that severity would take weeks to fade completely, and the video was only made 6 days ago, she changed her story. Said maybe the date stamp was wrong, then said maybe someone had edited the video to make the bruises look worse. She's backpedaling, Ethan said. She's definitely not being truthful, Torres agreed. But here's where it gets complicated. Without concrete proof that she made the video, that she applied the makeup, set up the camera, deliberately staged the scene, we can't charge her with false reporting. All we have is a suspicious video and her denial. Ethan felt something cold settle in his stomach. So she gets away with it. Not necessarily, Clark said. We're continuing to investigate. We've subpoenaed her phone records, computer files, and purchase history. If she bought stage makeup or filming equipment, we'll find it. If she communicated with anyone about making the video, that'll show up in texts or emails. But these things take time. How much time? Weeks, possibly months. Months. Months of waiting while Rachel walked free. While people who'd seen the video continued to wonder if maybe there was some truth to it, while Noah lived with the weight of uncertainty. There's something else, Torres said. The video was left in your son's locker at school. That's a violation of school policy, potentially trespassing if done by an adult who's not authorized to be on campus. The principal is reviewing security footage to see if we can identify who left it there. Rachel wouldn't have done it herself, Ethan said. Too obvious. She would have had someone else do it. That's our thought as well. We're looking into her associates, particularly anyone who might have access to the school. Ethan thought about that. Rachel had friends, plenty of them, accumulated over years of living in the area. But would any of them risk criminal charges to help her? Would they believe her story enough to plant evidence? Maybe. People believed what they wanted to believe. And Rachel had always been good at making people want to believe her. What do I do now? Ethan asked. You continue living your life, Clark said. Document any contact from Ms. Mallory or her associates. Don't confront her again. Let's handle that. And keep your son close. If anyone tries to talk to him about this, let us know immediately. Ethan left the station feeling hollower than when he'd arrived. They believed him. That was something. But belief wasn't the same as justice. Rachel was still out there, still telling her story, still twisting reality to suit her needs. And she was still Noah's mother. Still had custody rights, still had scheduled visitation. In 2 days, Noah was supposed to go to her house for the weekend. Ethan drove straight to his lawyer's office. The lawyer, a woman named Patricia Kemp who'd handled his divorce, listened to everything, taking notes in a leather-bound folder. When he finished, she sat back and steepled her fingers. You want to modify the custody agreement, she said. I want Noah protected. Those are different things, Ethan. Modifying custody requires proof that Rachel poses a danger to Noah. A fake video, while alarming, doesn't necessarily meet that threshold. She didn't threaten Noah. She didn't harm him physically. She used him as a courier, which is manipulative and inappropriate. But courts are hesitant to modify custody based on parental conflict. She suggested he made the video himself. She's willing to throw her own son under the bus to avoid accountability. Patricia nodded slowly. That's more useful. If we can get documentation of her making those accusations, maybe a police report or a recorded statement, we could argue she's engaging in parental alienation. But even then, the court's first step would be mediation or family therapy, not restricting her access. So what can I do? Document everything. Keep records of all communications. If Rachel says or does anything that could be construed as putting Noah at risk, emotionally or otherwise, write it down. Take screenshots. Save voicemails. Build a case over time. Ethan felt frustration rising. She already built a case. Against me. With fake evidence. And you're telling me I have to wait and gather real evidence slowly? I'm telling you the system doesn't move fast, especially with custody issues. But here's what we can do immediately. Request an emergency custody evaluation. Given the allegations, both hers against you and yours about her behavior, the court might order a new psychological assessment of both parents and Noah. That takes time too, but it gives us documentation from a neutral third party. Do it, Ethan said. It's expensive. I don't care. Patricia made a note. And Ethan, about this weekend's visit. You're within your rights to request supervised visitation until this is resolved. Given that Rachel has made false accusations and involved Noah in a scheme that's under active police investigation, a judge might agree that supervision is appropriate. Will that make things worse for Noah, being supervised when he visits his mom? Possibly, but it also protects him from being put in the middle of anything else she might plan. It's your call. Ethan thought about Noah, withdrawn, quiet, carrying weight no 14-year-old should have to carry. Adding supervised visitation would make things more complicated, more awkward. But leaving Noah alone with Rachel right now, after she'd proven how far she was willing to go. Request the supervision, Ethan said. That evening, Ethan sat Noah down at the kitchen table and explained the plan. His son listened without interruption, face carefully neutral. So I can't just visit mom normally anymore? Noah asked when he finished. Not for now. Just until the police finish investigating. She's going to be so angry. Noah's voice was flat. She'll blame you. Probably. She'll tell me it's your fault. Maybe. And I'll have to sit there with some stranger watching us the whole time, making sure mom doesn't. He trailed off, looking down at his hands. Making sure she doesn't what? Ethan reached across the table, covered Noah's hand with his own. I can't tell you what to think about your mom. That's not fair to you. But I can tell you that right now, I don't trust her to keep you out of her problems with me. And until I do, I need to make sure you're safe. I'm safe at her house. Physically, yes. But emotionally? Noah, she gave you a video accusing me of beating her and told you to bring home. She made you part of her plan. And when the police questioned her, she suggested maybe you'd made the video yourself. She was willing to make you look like a liar to protect herself. Noah pulled his hand back. She didn't mean it. She was just scared. Adults don't get to use their kids as shields when they're scared. That's not how parenting works. But she's still my mom. Noah's voice cracked. I can't hate her because she messed up. I'm not asking you to hate her. I'm asking you to let me keep you safe while she figures out whatever she's going through. And if that means supervised visits for a few weeks, then that's what it means. Noah stood abruptly, chair scraping against linoleum. You don't get it. You think this is about keeping me safe, but really it's about you winning. You versus mom like always. And I'm just stuck in the middle. He left before Ethan could respond. Footsteps heavy on the stairs, bedroom door slamming. Ethan sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair where his son had been. Maybe Noah was right. Maybe this was about winning. But if winning meant protecting Noah from being used as a weapon again, then Ethan would take that win and live with his son's anger. The emergency custody hearing happened 5 days later. A family court judge reviewed Patricia's motion, read Deputy Clark's preliminary report, and interviewed both Ethan and Rachel separately. The whole process took 3 hours. Rachel showed up dressed carefully, conservative skirt and blouse, hair pulled back, minimal makeup, playing the part of the concerned mother. She brought her own lawyer, a man Ethan didn't recognize. When she passed Ethan in the courthouse hallway, she didn't look at him, but her jaw was tight, hands clenched around her purse strap. The judge's decision came quickly. Supervised visitation for Rachel until the police investigation concluded. 1 visit per week, 4 hours, at a designated family center in town. The center would provide the supervisor and documentation. Rachel's lawyer objected, argued that there was no evidence of danger to the child. The judge overruled him. Ms. Mallory is under investigation for filing a false police report and involving the minor child in the commission of that potential crime, the judge said. Until that investigation is resolved, this court finds that supervised visitation is in the child's best interest. Rachel stood frozen, face pale. Then she turned and walked out without a word. Ethan felt no satisfaction in the victory, just exhaustion. The first supervised visit happened on Saturday. Ethan drove Noah to the family center, a cheerful building trying too hard to look non-institutional, with bright murals on the walls and donated toys in the lobby. The supervisor was a middle-aged woman with a kind face and tired eyes who'd probably seen too many broken families. Rachel arrived 10 minutes late. She hugged Noah hard when she saw him, held on longer than necessary. Ethan watched from across the room, trying to read Noah's body language. His son's arms stayed at his sides, not quite returning the embrace. "I love you so much," Rachel said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I've missed you." "Miss you too," Noah mumbled. Rachel shot Ethan a look, pure venom. Then she took Noah's hand and led him to the designated visitation room. The supervisor followed, clipboard in hand. Ethan waited in the lobby for the full 4 hours, reading work emails on his phone, pretending not to watch the clock. When the visit ended, Noah came out looking tired. Rachel followed, eyes red like she'd been crying. "This is ridiculous," she said to the supervisor. "I'm his mother. I would never hurt him." "I understand your frustration, ma'am," the supervisor replied professionally. "These are the court's orders." Rachel turned to Ethan. "You did this. You turned him against me." "I didn't turn anyone against anyone. I'm keeping our son safe." "Safe from what? From me loving him? From me trying to protect him from your lies," Ethan interrupted. "From whatever game you're playing. And it's not working." Rachel's face twisted. For a moment, she looked like she might say something else, something real, something true. But then her lawyer's training kicked in. She smoothed her expression, turned to Noah. "I love you, sweetheart. I'll see you next week." "Okay." Noah didn't look at her. In the truck on the way home, Noah was silent for 15 minutes. Then, she cried the whole time. Said you were trying to take me away from her. Said you were poisoning me against her. Ethan kept his eyes on the road. "What do you think?" "I think." Noah's voice was small. "I think she's lying. But I don't know why. And I don't know if that makes me a bad son. It makes you honest. That's never bad. But she's my mom. I'm supposed to believe her. I'm supposed to be on her side. You're supposed to be on the side of truth. Even when it's hard." Noah turned to look out the window, watching the pine trees blur past. "The deputy called me yesterday. He wants to interview me again. So they found something." Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What did they find?" He wouldn't say, just said it was important. 2 days later, Deputy Clark called Ethan into the station again. This time, Torres was there too, along with a third person Ethan didn't recognize, a woman in her 30s wearing business casual and carrying a laptop case. "Mr. Mallory, this is Detective Rodriguez from the Cybercrime Division," Clark said. "She's been analyzing the video file." Rodriguez opened her laptop, turned it so Ethan could see the screen. The frozen frame of Rachel's bruised face stared back at him. "Video files contain metadata," Rodriguez explained. "Information about when the file was created, what device was used to film it, any editing that was done. When we extracted the metadata from your tape, we found several interesting things." She clicked, bringing up a document full of technical details Ethan didn't understand. First, the video was filmed on November 2nd, as the timestamp indicates. But it wasn't filmed on a phone or a standard camcorder. It was filmed using a professional-grade camera, a Canon 5D, based on the EXIF data. Those aren't cheap, and they're not something most people own unless they're serious about photography or videography. "Rachel doesn't own a camera like that," Ethan said. "We know, but Tyler Benson does. His construction business uses one for promotional videos and before and after documentation of jobs. We confirmed the serial number matches his equipment." Ethan felt a surge of vindication. So Tyler helped her. Possibly. But there's more. Rodriguez clicked again. The video was edited on November 3rd using Adobe Premiere Pro. Not simple cuts, sophisticated color grading to make the bruises look more believable, audio enhancement to remove background noise, even some digital manipulation to adjust the lighting. Someone with professional editing skills worked on this for several hours. Tyler. He claims he didn't know anything about the video, but we've seized his computer and his camera. Our forensics team is analyzing them now. Rodriguez leaned forward. Mr. Mallory, we also found the purchase history for the stage makeup. It was ordered online 6 weeks ago and delivered to an address 3 blocks from Rachel Mallory's residence, a neighbor's house. The neighbor says Rachel asked if she could use their address for a package because she wanted it to be a surprise for Tyler. She's been planning this for 6 weeks, Ethan said slowly. At least. And there's one more thing. Clark pulled out a printout, slid it across the table. We subpoenaed Rachel's phone records. 2 weeks ago, she called a lawyer's office, not her divorce attorney, a different one. The firm specializes in domestic violence cases and restraining orders. She had a 40-minute conversation with them. Ethan read the printout, saw the date and duration of the call. November 1st, the day before the video was filmed. She was building a case, Torres said. The video wasn't just meant to scare you. It was meant to be evidence in a restraining order hearing. She would file for the order, present the video as proof of abuse, and likely request an emergency modification of custody, giving her sole physical custody and terminating your parental rights. The room seemed to tilt. Ethan gripped the edge of the table. She was trying to take Noah away from me completely. That appears to have been the plan, yes. Once she had a restraining order, she could argue you were a danger to both her and Noah. With video evidence backing her claim, most judges would grant an emergency order. You would have been barred from contacting Noah until a full hearing months later. By then, with Noah living with her full-time and you painted as an abuser, reversing the order would be nearly impossible. But it fell apart when she involved Noah, Ethan said, understanding. She needed the video to be discovered somehow, to make its way into the legal system. So she planted it in his locker, probably thinking he'd show a counselor or a teacher. She didn't count on him bringing it straight to me. Exactly, Clark said, and that's where her plan broke down. You immediately reported it. We investigated, and instead of looking like a victim, she started looking like a perpetrator. Rodriguez closed her laptop. Mr. Mallory, based on our investigation, we're moving forward with charges against Rachel Mallory. False reporting, attempted extortion, forgery of evidence, and child endangerment. We're also investigating Tyler Benson's involvement. If he knowingly assisted in creating the video, he'll face conspiracy charges. Ethan should have felt triumphant, vindicated, proven right. Instead, he just felt tired. What happens now? We'll arrest Ms. Mallory, probably within the next few days. She'll be arraigned, likely released on bail with conditions, including no contact with you or Noah, except through supervised visitation. Then the case goes to trial. How long? Months, minimum. These cases move slowly. And Noah? Clark's expression softened. That's the hard part. Noah's going to have to testify, probably, both about finding the tape and about his mother's behavior. It's not going to be easy on him. Ethan thought about his son, already withdrawn, already struggling, having to testify against his mother in court, having to recount how she'd used him, having to choose, in the most public way possible, which parent to believe. Can we avoid that? Can we do anything to keep him out of it? We'll try. But if Rachel pleads not guilty, which she almost certainly will, the prosecution needs Noah's testimony about how he received the tape. It's crucial to establishing intent. Torres's voice was gentle. I know this is hard, but Noah's already in this. Your ex-wife made sure of that when she used him as part of her plan. That night, Ethan told Noah everything. They sat at the kitchen table, the same place they'd had so many difficult conversations, and Ethan laid out exactly what the police had found. The professional camera, the editing software, the consultation with the lawyer, the 6-week planning period. Noah listened without interrupting. His face stayed carefully blank, but Ethan could see his hands shaking slightly where they rested on the table. She was really going to do it, Noah said when Ethan finished. Take me away from you. Looks like it. Why? It was the question Ethan had been dreading. Because how did you explain to a 14-year-old that his mother valued money and control more than truth? How did you explain that some people would destroy anything, even their own child's sense of security, to get what they wanted? I don't know, bud. Money, maybe, or anger, or both. People do terrible things when they're desperate. But I'm her son. Noah's voice cracked. Doesn't that matter more than money? Ethan reached across the table, took Noah's hand. It should, and maybe somewhere in her head, she convinced herself she was doing this for you. That having full custody would be better, that getting money from me would help her provide for you. People are really good at justifying their actions, even when those actions are wrong. Are they going to arrest her? Yes. When? Soon. Noah pulled his hand back, wrapped his arms around himself. Everyone at school is going to know. Everyone's going to talk about how my mom tried to frame my dad. Everyone's going to look at me like I'm... He trailed off, unable to finish. Like you're broken, Ethan supplied quietly. Like your family is a mess. Like you're something to whisper about. Noah nodded, eyes bright with tears he was trying not to shed. I'm not going to tell you it won't happen, because it will. People talk, especially in small towns. But here's what matters. You didn't do anything wrong. Your mom made choices. I made choices. But you? You were just trying to do the right thing by bringing that tape to me instead of hiding it. You were brave and honest, and that's all anyone can ask. Doesn't feel brave, Noah whispered. Feels like I'm betraying her. You're not. She betrayed herself. And she betrayed you when she involved you in her plan. Ethan leaned forward. Listen to me. Whatever happens next, the arrest, the trial, all of it, you are not responsible for any of it. Your mom made her choices. Now, she has to face the consequences. And that's not on you. But even as he said it, Ethan knew Noah would carry this weight. Knew his son would spend years wondering if things could have been different, if he'd missed some sign, if loving both parents was still allowed when one had tried to destroy the other. Some damage couldn't be prevented, only endured. Rachel was arrested 3 days later. Ethan learned about it from Deputy Clark, who called to inform him that she'd been taken into custody without incident and was being processed at the county jail. Bail had been set at $50,000. Her lawyer was working on getting her released within 24 hours. Does Noah know? Clark asked. Not yet. I'll tell him when he gets home from school. But Noah already knew. Tyler had called him, breaking the no-contact order, to explain in careful terms that Noah's mom had been arrested because of a misunderstanding with the police. Noah had come home pale and quiet, gone straight to his room, and locked the door. Ethan stood outside that door for 10 minutes, trying to find the right words. There weren't any. So he knocked and said simply, I'm here if you want to talk. No response. I'm not going anywhere, bud. Whenever you're ready. He went downstairs, made dinner neither of them would eat, and waited. Noah came down 2 hours later. His eyes were red and swollen. He sat at the table without speaking, picked at the pasta Ethan had reheated, and finally said, Tyler told me it was all a mistake. Said mom was just trying to protect herself from you, and the police misunderstood. Ethan set down his fork. What do you think? I think. Noah's voice broke. I think he's lying too. I think they both are. And I don't know what that makes me. It makes you smart enough to see the truth, even when it hurts. But she's my mom, Noah repeated, like a mantra he'd been telling himself for days. She's supposed to love me more than anything. She's supposed to protect me, not use me. So what does it mean that she did? Ethan had no answer that would make this better. No wisdom that would erase the betrayal. So he just said, it means she made a terrible mistake. And now she has to live with it. Will she go to jail? Maybe. Depends on the trial. How long? If she's convicted, could be a few years. Noah pushed his plate away. Everyone at school is talking about it. Someone's mom works at the courthouse and told people. Now everyone knows my mom got arrested for making a fake abuse video. I'm sorry. Are you? Noah looked up, and there was something sharp in his eyes. You won, right? Mom's in trouble. You're the good guy. Everyone knows you were innocent. Isn't that what you wanted? The question stung because there was truth in it. Ethan had wanted vindication. Had wanted people to know he wasn't the monster Rachel had tried to paint him as. But seeing what that vindication cost his son, I wanted the truth to come out, Ethan said carefully. I didn't want your mom to get arrested. I wanted her to stop lying and take responsibility. Those aren't the same thing. But you're not sad she got arrested. No, Ethan admitted. I'm not. Because what she did, trying to frame me, planning to take you away, dragging you into the middle of it, that's not something I can forgive. So you do want her to go to jail. I want her to face consequences for her choices. If that means jail, then that's what it means. But mostly, I want you to understand that what happened isn't your fault. And I want you to be safe. Those are my priorities, not revenge. Noah stared at him for a long moment, then stood. I'm going to bed. Ethan listened to his footsteps on the stairs, the creak of the bedroom door, the silence that followed. He sat alone at the kitchen table, surrounded by uneaten food, and wondered if Noah would ever fully trust either of his parents again. Rachel's trial was scheduled for late spring, 6 months away. In the meantime, her lawyer negotiated conditions for her bail: no contact with Ethan except through legal channels, supervised visitation with Noah once per week, surrender of her passport, weekly check-ins with a probation officer. She made bail the day after her arrest. Tyler had mortgaged his house to cover it. The supervised visits continued every Saturday. Ethan dropped Noah off, waited in the lobby, picked him up 4 hours later. The visits got progressively worse. Rachel cried more each week, told Noah how unfair everything was, how Ethan had manipulated the police, how she'd only made the video to protect herself and hadn't meant for Noah to get involved. Noah came home from each visit more withdrawn, more confused, more angry at everyone. After the 4th visit, he told Ethan he didn't want to go anymore. They were in the truck, halfway home, when Noah said it. I can't keep doing this. She just cries and tells me it's all your fault. And I sit there knowing she's lying, but she's my mom, and I can't. I can't just tell her I don't believe her. You don't have to go if you don't want to. Really, Noah, you're 14. You're old enough to decide if you want to see your mom right now. The court won't force you, and I won't force you. If you need a break from her, take it. Noah was quiet for a long moment. What if she thinks I've chosen you over her? Then that's what she thinks. But you're not choosing sides. You're choosing to protect yourself from someone who's hurting you. That's different, is it? Yeah, it is. The next Saturday, Noah didn't go to the supervised visit. Ethan called the family center and explained. Rachel showed up anyway, waited the full 4 hours, and left in tears. She sent Noah a long text message that evening. Ethan read it on Noah's phone, parental monitoring still in effect. The message was a masterpiece of manipulation. I miss you so much. I understand if you're angry with me. Your father has turned you against me, but I know that's not your fault. You're just a child. You don't understand what's really happening. I love you more than anything. Please don't abandon me. I need you. Noah stared at the message for 20 minutes, then deleted it without responding. Good, Ethan said quietly. Is it? Feels like I'm being cruel. You're being self-protective. She's trying to make you responsible for her feelings. That's not fair to you. Nothing about this is fair. Ethan couldn't argue with that. Months passed. Winter deepened. Snow piling up in the yard. Temperatures dropping below zero. Noah slowly came back to himself. Not the same as before, but more present, more engaged. He joined the school's robotics club, started hanging out with friends again, laughed more often. The shadow of the tape didn't disappear, but it receded. Rachel's trial date approached. The prosecutor called to inform Ethan that Noah would need to testify. Patricia advised, preparing him gently, helping him understand what the courtroom would be like, who would be there, what kinds of questions he'd be asked. Ethan tried, sat Noah down multiple times, walked him through the process, promised he'd be right there in the courtroom. But Noah retreated each time, shut down, refused to talk about it. I don't want to, Noah said finally, after the 4th conversation. I don't want to sit in front of a judge and a jury and my mom and tell everyone about that tape. I don't want people staring at me. I don't want lawyers asking me questions. I just want it to be over. I know, but your testimony matters. It's how the truth gets told. Can't someone else tell it? Not the same way you can. You're the one who found the tape. You're the one who brought it home. Your testimony is what proves she involved you intentionally. Noah's hands balled into fists. What if I refuse? What if I just don't show up? Then they could issue a subpoena, force you to testify. So I have to do it no matter what. Yeah, you do. I hate this. Noah's voice was raw. I hate all of it. I hate that Mom did this. I hate that you made her get arrested. I hate that I have to choose. You don't have to choose. Yes, I do. Noah stood abruptly. Every single day, I have to choose. Which parent to believe. Which parent to support. Which parent to live with. And now I have to stand up in court and choose which one to destroy. Because that's what my testimony does, right? It destroys her. It proves she lied. It sent her to jail. Noah, no. Tears streamed down Noah's face now. You keep saying I'm not responsible. You keep saying this isn't my fault. But it feels like my fault. It feels like if I just testify, I'm the reason Mom goes to jail. And if I don't testify, I'm letting her get away with trying to destroy you. Either way, I lose. Either way, someone I love gets hurt. And I can't. He broke off, sobbing, and Ethan crossed the room and pulled him into a hug. Noah fought it for a moment, then collapsed against his chest, crying like he hadn't cried since he was small. I'm sorry, Ethan whispered. I'm so sorry you're going through this. They stood there for a long time, Noah crying, Ethan holding him, both of them caught in the wreckage of Rachel's choices. The trial began on a Wednesday morning in late April. The courthouse was small, just one courtroom for all county matters, and it filled quickly with spectators. Small-town gossip at its finest. Everyone wanted to see what would happen to Rachel Mallory, the woman who'd faked an abuse video. Ethan sat in the gallery behind the prosecutor's table. Patricia sat beside him, there for moral support rather than legal representation. Noah sat on the other side, wearing his best clothes, face pale and set. Rachel sat at the defense table with her lawyer. She'd lost weight, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back severely. When she turned and saw Noah, her face crumpled. She mouthed something, looked like I love you, but Noah looked away. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution presented the metadata analysis, the purchase history for the stage makeup, the phone records showing Rachel's consultation with the restraining order lawyer. They called Deputy Clark, who testified about his investigation. They called Detective Rodriguez, who explained how the video had been professionally edited. They called the neighbor who'd received the makeup delivery. Rachel's lawyer tried to create doubt. Suggested maybe Tyler had made the video without Rachel's knowledge. Suggested maybe the metadata had been tampered with. Suggested maybe Rachel was a victim herself, coerced by Tyler into participating. But the evidence was overwhelming. And on the third day, the prosecutor called Noah to the stand. Ethan watched his son walk to the witness box, raise his right hand, swear to tell the truth. Noah's voice was steady but quiet as he answered the prosecutor's questions. Yes, he'd found the tape in his locker. No, he didn't know who put it there. Yes, he brought it immediately to his father. Yes, he'd watched it with his father. Yes, he recognized the woman in the video as his mother. No, he'd never seen injuries like that on her in real life. Then Rachel's lawyer cross-examined. His questions were gentle, careful, designed to make Noah doubt his own memories. Is it possible your mother had injuries you didn't notice? I don't think so, but you don't spend every day with her, do you? You only see her on weekends. Sometimes. So, it's possible she could have been injured, and you simply weren't there to see it? I guess. But the video said my dad did it. And I know he didn't, because we were together that night. The lawyer paused, recalibrating. You love your mother, don't you? Yes. And you love your father? Yes. Must be very confusing then, being in the middle of all this. Objection, the prosecutor said. Relevance. Sustained, the judge agreed. The lawyer tried a different angle. Noah, did your father tell you what to say today? No. Did he suggest you should testify that the video was fake? He didn't have to. I know it was fake. How do you know? Because I've lived with my parents my whole life. I know when they're lying. The lawyer sat down. Noah was excused. He walked back to the gallery with his head down, refusing to look at Rachel. Ethan put an arm around his shoulders as he sat. You did good, Ethan whispered. Noah didn't respond. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. False reporting, attempted extortion, child endangerment, forgery of evidence. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. Rachel's sentencing was quick and brutal. The judge read through the charges, listened to the prosecutor's recommendation, 3 years in prison, followed by supervised probation, and then turned to Rachel. Ms. Mallory, do you have anything to say before I impose sentence? Rachel stood, hands trembling. I never meant to hurt my son. I was just scared. I needed money, and I didn't know what else to do. I made a terrible mistake, but I'm not a bad person. I love Noah more than anything. The judge's expression didn't change. Ms. Mallory, you didn't just make a mistake. You orchestrated an elaborate scheme to frame your ex-husband for a crime he didn't commit. You purchased materials, filmed a staged video, edited it professionally, and then deliberately involved your 14-year-old son in delivering that false evidence. You did this not out of fear, but out of greed and vindictiveness. And when confronted, you lied repeatedly and even suggested your own son had fabricated the video. This court finds your actions reprehensible. Rachel's face went white. I hereby sentence you to 2 years in prison, followed by 3 years supervised probation. During probation, you will have no unsupervised contact with the minor child. You will undergo psychological evaluation and treatment. You will pay restitution to Mr. Mallory for legal fees and emotional distress. And you will serve notice that if you violate any condition of your probation, you will return to prison for the full remaining sentence. The gavel came down. Rachel's lawyer helped her sit before she collapsed. Guards approached to take her into custody. As they let her out, Rachel looked back one more time. Her eyes found Noah in the gallery. She mouthed something, maybe I'm sorry, maybe I love you, but Noah just stared back, face blank. When she was gone, the courtroom slowly emptied. People filtered out, whispering to each other, already turning Rachel's downfall into the story they'd tell at dinner parties. Ethan and Noah sat in the empty gallery for a long time, neither speaking. Finally, Noah said, "Is it over now?" "The legal part is. What about the rest?" Ethan thought about that, about the damage Rachel had done, the trust she'd broken, the scars that would take years to fade. Thought about Noah growing up with a mother in prison, explaining to future girlfriends why he didn't see her, carrying the weight of knowing she'd chosen money over him. "The rest takes time," Ethan said. "But yeah, eventually, it'll be over. Do I have to forgive her?" Ethan looked at his son, 14 years old, shoulders carrying weight they shouldn't have to carry, eyes asking a question he deserved an honest answer to. "No," Ethan said firmly. Forgiveness only works when someone wants to change, when they acknowledge what they did and take real responsibility. Your mom? She's sorry she got caught. She's sorry she's going to prison. But she's not sorry she tried to destroy me. And she's definitely not sorry she used you to do it. So no, you don't have to forgive that. Ever. Won't that make me bitter? Won't I end up angry all the time? Not if you don't let it. There's a difference between not forgiving and not moving forward. You can refuse to forgive her and still build a good life. You can acknowledge what she did, recognize it was wrong, and choose not to let it define you. Noah nodded slowly. Yeah, okay. They stood together, walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine. The town square was busy, people shopping, kids playing in the small park, life continuing like nothing monumental had just happened. Because for them, nothing had. Rachel's trial was just gossip, entertainment, something to discuss over coffee. But for Ethan and Noah, it was the closing of a chapter they'd never wanted to write. In the truck on the way home, Noah was quiet. But it was a different kind of quiet than before. Not withdrawn, just thoughtful. Processing. Healing, maybe in whatever small way he could. "Dad," he said as they pulled into the driveway. "Yeah. Thanks for believing me. About the tape. For not doubting that I was telling the truth." Ethan's throat tightened. "Of course. You're my son. I'll always believe you." They went inside together, and for the first time in months, the house didn't feel heavy with unspoken tension. It felt like home. 3 months later, Ethan and Noah stood on the dock behind their house, fishing rods in hand. The lake was perfectly still, reflecting the sky like glass. Summer had arrived in full force. Warm air, pine scent, the lazy hum of insects. Noah cast his line, watched the lure skip across the water. "Think we'll catch anything?" "Maybe. Does it matter?" "Not really. They'd been out here for an hour, catching nothing, talking about everything except Rachel. That was by design. Some days, they needed to talk about her, about the anger, the betrayal, the complicated grief of losing a parent who was still alive. But other days, they needed to just exist without that weight. Today was one of those days. Travis asked me to stay over this weekend, Noah said, referring to his friend from Robotics Club. Is that okay? Sure. You need a ride? His mom said she could pick me up. Works for me. They fished in comfortable silence. A breeze rippled across the water, disturbing the reflection. Noah reeled in slowly, methodically, the way Ethan had taught him years ago. You ever think about dating again? Noah asked suddenly. Ethan nearly dropped his rod. What? Dating? You've been single for 3 years. That's a long time. I've been focused on you. I know, but I'm saying it's okay if you want to meet someone. I'm not going to freak out or anything. Ethan considered that. He'd gone on exactly 2 dates since the divorce, both disasters that confirmed he wasn't ready. And after Rachel's trial, the idea of trusting someone new had seemed impossible. But standing here now, with Noah, giving him permission to move forward, maybe it wasn't so impossible after all. I'll think about it, Ethan said. Good. Noah cast again. You deserve to be happy, Dad. After everything. The words hit unexpectedly hard. Ethan blinked against sudden moisture in his eyes, focused on the lake, on the steady pull of the current against his line. So do you, bud. I'm getting there. And looking at his son, older now, steadier, carrying his scars but not crushed by them, Ethan believed him. The afternoon stretched on, sun warm on their shoulders, water lapping gently at the dock pilings. They caught nothing, and it didn't matter. They were here together, unbroken, refusing to let Rachel's choices write the ending of their story. Because that's what survival looked like. Not dramatic victories or perfect resolutions. Just quiet moments on a summer dock, fishing with your son, choosing to keep living despite everything that tried to stop you. Ethan wasn't a hero. He'd never claimed to be. He was just a man who'd refused to let someone else's lies become his truth. A father who'd protected his son the only way he knew how, with documentation, persistence, and an unwillingness to forgive cruelty dressed up as love. Some people called that ruthless. Ethan called it survival. The lake reflected the sky, clear and untouched. Ethan cast his line one more time and watched the ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection for a moment before it settled back into stillness. Clean, uncompromised, whole, just like he intended to stay.